from with the OECD, from the ANSSI, Israel National Cyber Directorate. And thank you all for joining us and being here. So it's a good morning there, good evening there, and you know, like the British Empire, the cyber, the sun always shines somewhere in the cyber empire. So thanks for the OECD to organize that. And we have discussed here in the last 2 days plus a lot of great issues concerning all of our concerns about cybersecurity, from IoT to critical infrastructures, to sharing information, to regulation and standardization, etc., etc. And we are now here to wrap things up and see how we as countries, as nations, as national agencies can do more tangible, more implementable measures to achieve a better cybersecurity to our growing and developing digital societies and countries. So after a year that can be described as maybe the toughest in the past 50 or 70 years, we finally get back to meeting, unfortunately still virtually, but hopefully in the coming year, next year, Japan and then in Korea will have the opportunity to meet physically, maybe even before that in the Expo in Dubai in the UAE. But one benefit that we already gained from the delay, 1 year delay, is the joining of a new friend to our circle, His Excellency Dr. Al-Kuwaiti from the United Arab Emirates. A year ago, it wouldn't be possible. Now it's a reality and something that is common and understood. So we have a growing circle, but we need to see how we strengthen this circle and go to more implementable measures. We all understand that words enough are not enough. Just words are not enough, and we need more actionable things. And what I would like to ask each and every speaker here, every member, is to share with us thoughts, ideas, and suggestions of how we can move more forward to more tangible and actionable cybersecurity measures that only countries and only together we can achieve. Except each country by itself, we understand the need. We'll go on an alphabetic order, and we'll begin with the Czech Republic. We have here Mr. Petr Novotny from the NÚKIB in the Czech Republic. Peter, can you share us how do you see the priorities in your country and the role of the multilateral partnerships and the role of the OECD, including concerning that? Peter?
Thank you for your introduction, Mr. Unna, and for the opportunity to speak here at the OECD Global Forum. The Czech Republic refreshed its national priorities last autumn when the new National Cybersecurity Strategy was approved by our government. And it acknowledges that cyberspace and modern technologies have to become inseparable parts of our everyday lives. The gradual digitalization of Czech society is supporting our ability to compete, our economy, and our prosperity. But on the other hand, it is also creating continually higher demands on cybersecurity. This strategy consists of 3 key pillars. The pillar number 1 is being confident in cyberspace. The fundamental prerequisite for us, for the Czech Republic's ability to defend itself in cyberspace is to build its own capabilities by practicing whole of government approach. The pillar number 2 are strong and reliable alliances. We will remain proactive in creating international dialogue since international dimension is one of the most important aspects of cybersecurity. And last but not least, the Resilient Society 4.0. That's the pillar number 3. The Czech society is successfully transforming into an information society. If modern technologies are to be deeply integrated into our citizens' everyday lives, cybersecurity must remain inherent part of their education and lives as well. Czech Republic strongly accents also non-technical aspects of cybersecurity. We found it impossible to achieve desirable level by focusing only on the technical issues and technical solutions. We are an advocate of a risk-based approach found on identifying and mitigating specific risks through a complex manner, not only technical measures. In my eyes, one of the key issues we are facing today is the supply chain security. These chains are increasingly complex, and in just last few months, we experienced multiple cyber attacks abusing its vulnerabilities. I can mention attacks against SolarWinds and Microsoft Exchange, just for example. And the supply chain security is intensively discussed in connection with fifth generation networks right now. But it is the only one area to focus on, and we need to put into scrutiny others as well. To mitigate supply chain risk, a complex solution encompassing technical as well as non-technical aspects must be applied. As I just mentioned, one of the cornerstones of our strategy, national strategy, is international cooperation, especially with like-minded, trustworthy partners that share our core values. Because our values and principles, they represent a compass, guiding us through the challenges and difficulties, not only in cyberspace. And we do realize that multiple issues cannot be effectively solved on national level. Emerging disruptive technologies and universal standards can be named as examples. Intensive cooperation with partners is not only appropriate, it's necessary. Therefore, this autumn, we organize third Prague 5G Security Conference, where we see a great opportunity to create partnerships regarding EDTs. And what is the role of OECD? Well, it represents a unique forum and platform because it gathers countries with shared core values around the globe. Those values certainly overlap not only into economic realm, but also into cyberspace. The trend of increasing interconnection between economy and cybersecurity will almost certainly only continue, and the COVID pandemic accelerated the process, as we all can see right now. This puts OECD into a very special position. It has already established itself in economic and other domains as an organization setting policy standards and benchmarks for its members and others as well. We can largely benefit from its activities, grasping cybersecurity in a complex manner and connecting it with other dimensions, including economical one. Its work on coordinated vulnerability disclosure or security of digital products are good examples. So Czech Republic welcomes OECD activities in cybersecurity, and we are looking forward to actively contribute and be part of its effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being accurate on the 5 minutes time period that every speaker has. And now to India, General Rajesh Pant, old friend, National Cybersecurity Coordinator in the Prime Minister's Office of India, and a long time member of our forum, Cyber Forum. What is your ideas of how to raise up the level of partnership and collaboration?
Thank you for the introduction, Yigal, and my compliments to the host, Israel, for organizing this very unique Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development meeting. The theme is extremely important, building cyber resilience together in a post-COVID-19 world. Firstly, I'm just waiting for this post-COVID-19 world to start. Because as you're aware, India is just at the end of the second wave. It was a very serious wave, which we have overcome with a lot of planning. There's been a lot of loss of lives. So we are all waiting for this post-COVID era to start. Now, as far as economic development is concerned, today there is no doubt that cybersecurity is the bedrock. You would have also heard that in 2020, there is one estimate which says that the global loss due to cybercrime was $6 trillion US. And the way 2021 has started, this figure is expected to cross. So all countries throughout the world have to take all these issues into account. As far as India is concerned, my predecessor Petr just mentioned about the complexities of the supply chain. Now that is the first initiative we have taken in India, that we have come out with a national security directive on the telecom sector. And you'll be glad to know that after a few days on 15th of June, our portal is going live. And in that portal, all the telecom service providers, if they have to connect any equipment in their networks, they have to upload it in the portal. We will do our background checks on the company from which it is being procured, and also the hardware, including the software as well as the silicon that is inside that. So we are going down to the chip level and seeing from where it is coming. And after our checks are over, we put it back on the portal and call it as a trusted product. So rather than a negative list, which some countries have come out with the names of companies and banned them, we are coming out with a positive list. And we are saying, okay, we ban no one, but who is allowed has to follow ABCD principles. So that is the first information I want to share, that this portal is going live on 15th of June, and it will be something that all our member states and friends can get in touch with us, and we can share as to what is the criteria that we are following, etc. The second major aspect is what happened in Czech also, is our national cybersecurity strategy 2021. That is also due out very soon, in which we also are following a whole of nation approach and have what is called as a CBDR, common but differentiated responsibility. That means everyone has a responsibility for cybersecurity of the nation, because as you know, the attacks start from just one human error and then spread laterally and then create, the impact that they are doing. So citizen has some responsibility, the government has responsibility, academia has responsibility, business has responsibility, and all these separate responsibilities have been given in our national cybersecurity strategy that is going to come out soon. Now, the third major point is something that Mr. Yigal and me have always been discussing, and that is about the attribution part. Now, why these ransomware attacks and the cyber crimes are carrying on unabashedly is because there is no fear of attribution. Now, this is what we have always been saying, that cybersecurity is not only a team sport, it is an international team sport. And unless we collaborate and exchange threat intelligence at the right time and do some sort of policing on the dark web, these mafia gangs and criminals will continue to get away. So this is a point that we need to consider as to how we can do some sort of a Interpol policing on the dark web with our combined resources. Because, sometimes I wonder that all these marketplaces that are there, the Empire Net and these dream markets that are there on the dark web, they are just functioning in an open sort of a model and selling all these arms and drugs and credit debit cards, and all the wrong things are happening there. For how long are we going to allow this? And this cannot be done by one nation. This is where regional cooperation has to be there. So these are some of the major points that I have at the top of my mind. And there is no doubt that organizations such as the OECD can contribute. And very recently you are aware that in the UNGGE, the 6th UNGGE has finally come to a consensus and submitted its report to the General Assembly, as compared to the 5th UNGGE where there was no consensus. So, although we may have some differences amongst nations, but cyber security is a global common, and nations are realizing that. It is like, climate and weather. It is a global common. It affects all of us. So the success of the UNGGE as also the open-ended working group definitely confirms that fact that there are more good people in the world than the evil ones. And that is the positive note on which I want to end. So I would strongly support and confirm the support of India towards all the actions that OECD takes for building cyber resilience together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General. And now to France, and if you ask about the order, well, let's say it's the Hebrew alphabetic order, and we'll skip that. So sorry, Mr. Yves Verhoeven, the head of strategy department in National Cybersecurity Agency, the ANSSI in France. Yves, please share us with your ideas and thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. And no worry. And no worry about the alphabet order. So first of all, I would like to thank OECD and Israel for inviting us to this closing session of the third edition of the Global Forum with such distinguished colleagues. Thanks also to Israel for having organized this virtual edition that was long awaited due to COVID. And still, I am very eager to be able to return to our face-to-face meetings. Now, the digitalization of our societies, coupled with the interdependence of actors and the effects of the pandemics, make us even more vulnerable to digital risk. In that context, cooperation between all actors is no longer an option, but strictly a necessity. Cybersecurity is obviously a key area to ensure the digital transformation of economy and society takes place with trust. But the cybersecurity risks are not owned by IT experts. Anyone can be impacted by a cyber attack, whether a direct target or not. And this is why everyone should be mobilized, and this is why cooperation between all actors is key. Thankfully, we don't feel like we are alone to address this pressing issue of growing cyber threats. We know in France that we can count with a number of initiatives that were launched in the past years. For instance, initiatives taken by the European Union are particularly relevant to us as a member state, such as the NISC directive, which is an important regulatory framework to face the current level of threat and strengthen our resilience. Another example is the Paris Call for Trust and Security in the cyberspace, launched in 2018 with a large number of signatories, notably in the private sector. Also, over the years, the OECD has demonstrated how relevant the organization was to address sensitive subjects involving public actors and private interests regarding international regulations through the development of soft law. The OECD also facilitates the emergence of a community or a network of digital security experts for specific questions of economic and societal prosperity. In 2018, the Global Forum hosted in Paris addressed the roles and responsibilities of actors in the management of digital risk and the strengthening of technology security. What stemmed out the exchange was that the adoption of concrete measures and the exchange of good practices are essential to strengthen the overall level of security and the capacity of all actors, states, companies, users, to protect themselves. The evolution of the threats that we observed in the past years confirmed our take on this approach. In that context, we believe cooperation with like-minded countries who share the same commitments to tackle digital security threats is very important. Having that in mind, we believe that the OECD must continue, as it does within the Security in the Digital Economic Working Party, a working party that I have had the honor to chair over the past 2 years, to elaborate new recommendations or update past ones that will provide guidance to all actors in the public and the private sectors and reinforce the responsibilities of private actors. The work in progress is innovative and tackles complex issues that have not yet been the subject of international consensus. Indeed, within the SDE Working Party, we are looking at strengthening the security of products and services, a crucial topic for the digital security of businesses, citizens, and administrations. As an example, we are supporting the adoption of high-level ex-ante regulatory measures to increase the overall security of the sector, an approach that will also be considered by the European Union for its future regulation regarding IoT. The Working Party is also working to improve the responsible management of vulnerabilities. The recommendations suggest to include vulnerability treatment in regulation, standards, and guidance. Here also, the European Commission identified the same needs and proposed in its draft revision of the NIS directive several measures in this direction. But let us not forget that the work which is being conducted regarding these recommendations will not be over once they are published. Far from it. These guidelines will need to be incorporated into public policies. To do so, international cooperation will have to be pushed even further, and working closely between national cyber authorities will be the occasion to exchange views on this and exchange best practices. Furthermore, we believe that discussions between agencies like ours will be very useful for the OECD work within the SDE Working Party and could fit its work program. Finally, we think that working between agencies like ours could also be leveraged within the framework of the next OECD ministerial meeting, coming hopefully in 2022 or a bit later. As a conclusion, France is deeply attached to the multi-stakeholder open and inclusive format to deal with the challenge of cybersecurity. And all initiatives in that direction are welcome, starting with the OECD Global Forum on Digital Security. The forum is always the occasion to bring forward new initiatives that will help to shape the future of our discussions. And I would like to thank again Israel for the organization of this great edition. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Yves, and thank you for your ongoing hard work with the OECD committee dealing with the cybersecurity, and your very important comment about the importance of a collaboration between the agencies as we seek to strengthen it and to build it even furthermore. And now, good night to our colleagues in the other side of the world, in Japan. Mr. Tomoo Yamauchi, Deputy Director General in NISC in the Cabinet Secretariat in Japan. Tomoo, please, let's hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your kind introduction. I'm Tomoo Yamauchi, Deputy Director General of NISC, Government of Japan. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Unna to chair this session and Israel's leadership to host this global forum. I'm pleased to be here today to share my own views on the importance of strengthening cooperation among cybersecurity authorities of like-minded countries. At this forum, important topics were discussed, such as how to take a regulatory balance between ensuring cybersecurity and respecting the autonomy of private companies, and how to deal with cyber attacks that exploit vulnerabilities in the supply chain. Cyber incidents easily cross national borders and cannot be addressed alone. So it is very important to deepen mutual understanding and international cooperation through dialogues like the forum today. Our organization NISC is a focal point across the government agencies to engage in policy making in cybersecurity and to handle cyber incidents. I belong to NISC for around 8 years in total, and I coordinate cyber policy and incident handling on a daily basis. We observe that cyber attacks are getting more advanced and sophisticated, and it is likely that some of them are state-sponsored. Under such circumstance, I strongly feel the importance of the information sharing across the government, private entities, and international partners at the policy and operational levels. On the other hand, I do recognize the international collaboration has a room to be deepened further. Cybersecurity is a collaborative teamwork by all of the government agencies, a variety of private sectors and citizens. I think we need to have the whole government approach at the government level and public-private partnerships simultaneously. Additionally, at the international level, it is needed to have a multi-layered communication among like-minded countries at the governmental as well as private level. At that time, since each country has various challenges, it is desirable to balance topics from the policy level to the operational level. For the future work of the OECD, I'd like to explain our challenges to be addressed at home and abroad by using the outline of the next Japan's cybersecurity strategy, which will come out by the end of this year. Here is the material to summarize the outline. Due to the time constraint, 5 minutes, I'd like to explain only a 7th page. I will ask the Secretariat to circulate this document for today's participants, so please see the other page later. Japan in the 2020s is characterized as the era of the new normal and the digital society, which aligns with the theme of the forum today. The Japanese government is promoting digital transformation, which will be led by the digital agency to be established this September. Teleworking and online education is getting popular under the COVID-19. As a result, we can say that cyberspace is now becoming a public space where all stakeholders participate. Interconnection and interrelationships across cyber and the physical boundaries are becoming deeper. Around 2015, when Japan's Basic Act on Cybersecurity was enacted, Japan's focus on cyber policy was on the protection industry. But now it is needed for all stakeholders, including individuals, to ensure their own cybersecurity. That we will continuously commit to the 5 basic principles as a democracy, as a free flow of information, the rule of law, openness, autonomy, and the collaboration among multi-stakeholders, including like-minded countries like you. Based on the recognition that ensuring cybersecurity is needed for all stakeholders, the main concept here is cybersecurity for all. Under this concept, we have 3 pillars. The first pillar is to enhance socio-economic vitality and sustainable development. Digitization has been greatly advancing. For example, the digital agency will be established in September of this year. At the same time, cybersecurity should be advanced in parallel with digitization. Under this recognition, one direction of the strategy is digital transformation called DX with cybersecurity. The second pillar is to ensure a digital society where people can live with a sense of safety and security. To create a cybersecurity environment to protect people and society, our priorities are on the following points: ensuring supply chain management and response to new technologies and services, including 5G and IoT, and cooperating with new providers of cybersecurity, including cloud service providers. The third pillar is to contribute to the peace and stability of international community and Japan's national security. This is the outline of the Japan's next cybersecurity strategy and our challenges. Since cybersecurity-related issues are closely linked to every field of our society, I believe it is necessary to tackle cybersecurity issues comprehensively by involving experts in various fields such as diplomacy, development assistance, economy, leader, education, communication, and science and technology. I would say that it's exactly the characteristics and advantage of the OECD. Lastly, I'd like to add the Tokyo Olympics and the Paralympic Games are scheduled this summer, next month, and that we are steadily promoting cybersecurity measures towards the games. After that, I'd like to share its legacy with you. Lastly, next year, as you mentioned, Japan will host this forum. We are looking forward to discussing with you the impact of emerging technology and on digital securities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. And looking forward for next year in Japan, coming over hopefully physically without any restraints. And now close by to Korea, to Mr. Jin-bae Hong, the Director General of the Cybersecurity Network Policy Bureau in the Ministry of Science and ICT, the MSIT in Korea. Mr. Hong, please.
Good night again. Hello, everyone. I'm Jin-bae Hong, Director General for Cybersecurity and Network Policy at the Ministry of Science and ICT of Korea. First of all, let me express my sincere gratitude to the OECD Working Party on Security in the Digital Economy and Israel National Cyber Directorate for inviting me to this important forum. In the digital transformation era, this OECD forum has become an important venue for member countries to share information and spread best practice. And I think it is also serves as a great platform for us to meet with various experts and learn from one another. I think Korea is not an exception. As seen from SolarWinds and Colonial Pipeline cases, cyber threats are growing concern across all industries and government sectors. And after the outbreak of COVID-19, a non-face-to-face environment has become the new norm, as including online classes and working from home. So we have more chance to face a cyber threat anytime, anywhere. In this regard, the concept of cyber resilience, seeking a fast recovery, is gaining importance because we cannot prevent every threat. Reflecting this importance, the Korean government established and announced a new national strategy for cybersecurity named CAPE Cybersecurity Plan last February. With this strategy, we plan to invest a total of $600 million by 2023 in order to respond to new growing cyber threats, such as ransomware, and improve national cyber resilience. Especially, we aim to improve our core capability to detect and analyze cyber threat by using intelligence technologies and to establish a full cycle of recovery and prevention system based on public-private partnership. Close international cooperation among the members of OECD will play a key role in improving cyber resilience. I believe there is a strong need for member countries to share cyber threat information, including ransomware attack, and carry out joint R&D research project. It is also crucial to promote people-to-people exchange among member countries. Under the leadership of OECD, Korea will do its part by actively cooperating and contributing to those initiatives. Lastly, Korea has already expressed intention to host the 5th OECD Digital Security Forum in 2023. Let me ask for your kind support, and I look forward to meeting you face-to-face in 2023 in Korea. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward also for that. And I believe first time here with the OECD circle from Singapore, that congratulations for elected to lead the open-ended work group in the UN. Mr. David Koh, the Chief Executive of Cybersecurity Authority, CSA, among other positions, high executive positions in Singapore. Our old friend, David, please.
Thank you very much, Yigal, and the OECD for inviting me to speak on such a timely and relevant topic. Good evening from Singapore. It's a great honor for us to be part of this discussion. As many of the earlier panelists have pointed out, COVID-19 has fundamentally changed the way that we work and live. It has accelerated digitalization and shown us how dependent we all are on connectivity and digital technologies for a wide range of economic and social activities. Yet, as we all know, there are risks and downsides that we must all address early. Cyber threats are borderless. This means that cyber digital attacks on a particular state or service provider can easily be carried out by perpetrators based elsewhere. This means that states and service providers are defending themselves against the most sophisticated and advanced threats from across the world, and no single stakeholder can combat these threats alone. Strong international partnerships and cooperation, in addition to national strategies and initiatives, can help support countries to adequately equip themselves to respond to and manage digital security threats. As our Indian colleague Rajesh Pant said, cyber is an international team sport. I like that. There are two things I think that OECD can do to boost international cooperation. Well, first, the OECD can continue to encourage countries to come together through the various work streams to promote an interoperable digital space through collaboration and exchanges on common security standards and frameworks. As the operating landscape evolves, domestic policies must consider, obviously, a balance between security, costs, and usability. And we need to review our risk profiles as and when needed in order to keep in step in tandem with developments. The Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, we have put in place national strategies and initiatives for our country. And these take the broader digital security risks into account. One example is for Internet of Things, IoT. The landscape is fast evolving and it poses distinctive threats and risks. Given that the proliferation of smart devices has given rise to a potentially huge attack surface, Singapore launched a cybersecurity labeling scheme, a CLS, last year to raise the security levels of consumer IoT devices. We also now hope, that was for the domestic environment. Now we hope to establish mutual recognition of our scheme with international partners so that through interoperability, we can collectively advance the security standards of consumer IoT devices, something that we all would want to do together. This is just one of the initiatives which Singapore introduced to address digital security challenges which all of us face. I believe that the OECD encourages collaboration and exchanges on common security standards and frameworks, including initiatives such as the cyber labeling scheme. Countries may be better equipped to therefore manage digital security risks if we cooperate. Such exchanges not only encourage countries to want to continue to learn from each other, but also to promote interoperability, and it will also boost international cooperation. Second, the OECD can promote multi-stakeholder dialogues across borders to encourage international cooperation in addressing digital security risks. Governments alone do not have all the answers on digital security issues. Firstly, large parts of the digital infrastructure are operated by non-state stakeholders. It's even more crucial for close cooperation between the different stakeholders to work together to address novel threats that have arisen as a result of new technology. Singapore is committed to a multi-stakeholder partnership and actively engages with non-state stakeholders. One example is our Singapore International Cyber Week, which we have organized since 2016. It's one of the avenues where stakeholders can come together, deliberate on key digital security issues while finding opportunities to collaborate. This has sharpened our thinking as we have benefited from different perspectives, enabling us to develop more holistic policies and make informed decisions on digital security risk management. The Global Forum of Digital Security for Prosperity, which continues to bring together various stakeholders to share their perspectives on digital security risk management, is another example of OECD's commitment to promoting multi-stakeholder dialogues. Such platforms are crucial as they facilitate exchanges on wide-ranging security issues in the digital domain. These exchanges in turn enhance trust, which encourages international cooperation among the different stakeholders. So in conclusion, the OECD has a role to play in boosting international cooperation. The current climate is such that countries are beginning to link technological capabilities to national security, economic prosperity, as well as social stability. The OECD WP SDE work is thus highly relevant as it creates a conducive environment for cultivating trust, which is a key element for effective international cooperation and in strengthening a rules-based international order in cyberspace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And now for another newcomer and a warm friend of the cybersecurity community in Israel specifically, His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Al-Kuwaiti, the head of cybersecurity in the United Arab Emirates. Doctor, please.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you all of your excellencies for allowing us to be with you here. It is actually an honor and definitely we look forward to add values in this. It is definitely indeed a challenging time that we have been through. And we live in a world that is usually and always continuously changing. And the good thing is changing to a better world with you, with all of the friends that we have, with all of the relations and collisions that we build in order to actually fulfill this cybersecurity resiliencies that we actually work together in achieving. Yes, COVID-19 has fundamentally changed the way that we work and we live and we educate. Many countries have imposed many of those strategies to control the spread of COVID-19, resulting in several business affected in that regards. Some countries, such as us here and our partners as well, Israel and many others, were building many of those defenses and implementing controls to ensure that we will all not be overrun by this virus. But at the same time, it's harder to implement, yes, but we did it, and we really appreciate all of the support from all of our partners in here. We recognize that we are not only in the midst of this global pandemic. We are also in the center of a digital revolution, as you all and my colleagues here really specified that. One that would fundamentally change the societies and economies as we go on time and across the whole world. Businesses are intensifying their adoption of digital tools for sustainability, and individuals amplifying their digital activities in a daily matters for continuity. While technology advances, it may be deemed a savior in this regard. However, the heavier reliance of such technologies, as you all actually agreed on, introduces more and more actually vulnerabilities and threats landscape, and it expands that attack surface, which makes a robust cybersecurity environment become more crucial for sustaining that resiliency and trust. The cyber pandemic, for example, it includes to us in many of those aspects that we follow cyber crimes that were really skyrocketed recently, as well as cyber terrorism and cyber warfare, where we see many of our friendly nations who were actually affected about those warfare. And it's really caused many cost of this reach to even millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. So this is, if one, we shall say that because of there is a reason why those cyber crimes increases and why those cyber criminals are always one step ahead of us. And I would say this is because they always collaborate and share information together. Beside that collaboration, they are extremely well positioned with regards on situation awareness. They have very good idea of knowing who are their targets and how to target them. What are the devices that they actually use and how to reverse engineer it or work on this. And this group focuses on such specific researches on those capabilities of those groups, and it's always impossible to eradicate them or maybe counter them except if we come all together. They are, yes, physically, virtually located everywhere and anywhere, and the cyberspace is without borders, as everybody actually emphasized on this. That's why we are here putting our hands and extending those arms to promote and work together in that partnership for the cyber collaboration and for the goal of a mutual of us all a resiliency and a vibrant digital future, a future that we have and we know it, and there will be no boundaries in that future for us, for our kids of kids. That's why we need to establish that trusted transparency information sharing hub, if we may call. Our partner mentioned some of those platforms where we could actually share those information, and that's really, I applaud many of those aspects where like-minded countries really work together in that aspect. Indeed, emerging technology disrupt traditional businesses and job and lifestyles and many of those aspects, such as various attacks that happens here and there. And with the hyper-connected landscapes now, with all of the internet and the new technologies, Internet of Things, big data analysis, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, all of this are actually bringing more and more aspects that we need to really help and work together in achieving. Technology is only one part, as we all know. And the things that we do here today from bringing us from OECD together is the other part, which is a need to sustainable international cooperation and boosting that cooperation and really achieving that collaboration in more and more solidified type of steps. And this is why we here in UAE, like all of you, would like to redouble on that commitment and redouble on those multilateral collaboration with you all, where we are calling for any of those further collaboration or establishment of such forums, and allow us to really build that transparency and work together in this information sharing platform for the spread of trust and the build of an open collaboration and innovation that tackles digital transformation. In conclusion, it's always our key objective is to build that resiliencies and secure for all of our nations with implementing a measurable as well as achievable type of steps, be it the culture that we already actually started in many of the schools we have, be it the events that we usually held here in country to elaborate on those cybersecurity, and we actually extend our invitation as well to host any of those OECD in the future to come, or in any of the events we have, be it in JISEC, be it in JITEC, or be it during Expo. So this is again another place where we could actually even strengthen those aspects. And even I second many of the members who actually mentioned the ability or the need of actually establishing a certification process for many of the devices where IoTs comes in place now and everywhere, and you will see it's already everywhere. And this is really an important boost of such collaboration of coming up with those standards proactively. So with that, I really thank you all, and I put hands as well with you all to really combat that mutual threat, and we definitely together can achieve more and more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And now, last but certainly not least, he has the great advantage to have the full day ahead of him. Mr. Brandon Wales from the United States, Acting Director of the Cybersecurity in the Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA, the famous CISA. Brandon, please, let's have yours.
No, thank you very much, Yigal, and thank you to the hosts at OECD for bringing us together today and inviting me to speak. It is truly an honor and really glad to be joining the virtual stage with so many important colleagues and partners. Hope to do so in person in the near future. So today I want to for a couple of minutes and share with you CISA's vision for how the OECD can continue to serve as a force multiplier for the international cybersecurity cooperation that is so necessary. Let me just start with just touching upon how we see our own role here in CISA as part of this broader cybersecurity community. In the United States, we serve as really as the nation's risk advisor, working in collaboration with government and the private sector to defend against today's threats and collaborate to build more secure and resilient infrastructure for the future. We like to say we defend today and secure tomorrow. The threats we face, as many of you discussed, have come in all shapes and sizes: digital, physical, man-made, technological. They're also more complex, and the threat actor is more diverse than at any point in our history. And CISA really sees itself at the heart of mobilizing a collective defense as we lead the nation's effort to understand and manage risk to critical infrastructure. Over the past year, we have adapted, like all of you, to how we do business to become more resilient. But at the same time, we have seen the frequency and severity of cyber attacks on our systems and our infrastructure continue to increase. I wanted to share just a brief snapshot of what's consuming our bandwidth at the moment. First, getting our own house in order. In the wake of the SolarWinds incident, we have been focusing on strengthening the cybersecurity of the federal government. CISA earlier this year received additional authorities from our legislature giving us the ability to provide more persistent hunts on federal networks, to deploy more shared services, to provide protection to the 102 federal civilian executive branch agencies that we are responsible for supporting. Following that, Congress provided us an additional $650 million that we are using to drive and accelerate change from, in some cases, largely perimeter-based defenses to a more defense-in-depth strategy, and to accelerate the move towards more defensible architectures built upon zero trust principles. And then just last month, President Biden signed an executive order on improving federal cybersecurity. In it, it's got a range of items, including important ones like supply chain security that have been discussed here. But I think those three things together, the authorities, the funding, and the strategic direction from the White House all come together to provide us a roadmap for how we're going to make the federal government the gold standard for cybersecurity going forward. Second kind of line of effort is securing our most critical infrastructure. This is only made more important by the recent attacks against critical infrastructure like Colonial Pipeline. But even before that, we had started efforts spearheaded by our White House to focus on some of the most critical sectors, provide and surge resources from the federal government to help shore up their baseline cybersecurity, as well as deploy more advanced technologies to detect attacks targeting our industrial control systems. And the final line of effort is really kind of in spirit of why we're doing here, which is how do we raise the broader cyber baseline in an environment where your risks are often shared, and your risks are often dependent upon your weakest partner, your most vulnerable vendor. It is so essential to raise the cyber baseline across the country. We think that the threat of ransomware will hopefully kind of galvanize the broader business community to take this issue and threat seriously, and CISA wants to be at the forefront of providing the kind of information, best practices to achieve that goal. But in this year of really dynamic change, one of the real constants for us has been our trusted partnerships with government entities and organizations in the United States, but importantly around the world. Our efforts over the past year would have not been successful without the strong partnership and information sharing we've received from our industry partners, our state and local partners, and many of you on this call today. And that is why in February, CISA released its first ever international strategy known as CISA Global. I've talked about it on a number of occasions, and you can find it on our website at cisa.gov/global. But we want to work with international partners and the OECD and other multilateral forums to strengthen the security of the cyber ecosystem, increase the resilience of critical infrastructure, and address the most urgent threats and risks to our security. Our strategy is based upon, I think, time-tested approaches related to advancing operational cooperation with our international partners, strengthening the capacity of key partners around the world to work with us, and shaping the global policy ecosystem. DHS and our other government partners remain actively committed to working through the OECD to address some of the underlying challenges that create risks in our digital ecosystem. I applaud the work of the Working Party on Security in the Digital Economy, both for their efforts in support of our Israeli hosts this week, but also an enduring body under which like-minded nations can collaborate on these digital risks. It is through these robust partnerships that we are truly going to position ourselves to enhance global cybersecurity and thereby fostering a more stable, reliable global digital economy. And that is why it was so important for me to join you all here today. I know that there were important topics raised today, ones that are near and dear to our heart, focusing on, for example, managed service providers as a way to address concentrated risks. And obviously, those are among the most pernicious targets for our most sophisticated nation-state attacks. But in closing, I hope during the past few days, as you've made new connections and learned new approaches, that you take that forward and continue to build on the efforts of this forum. There has obviously been a wealth of expertise amongst all of you and the panelists over the past day, and we obviously have a lot to learn from each other. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and hopefully this has been a tremendous event, and look forward to participating in them in the future.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Thank you. And Well, it's difficult to try to summarize and to conclude all the great ideas that came from all of you, all of us. I'll begin with a notion about the coming Olympics. After General Pant got this phrase of international team sport, I embrace it. Yes, this is a great definition of what we're trying to do, and let's practice for the coming Olympics. A new cybersecurity gym or a field, sport field. We discussed the supply chain security, and we discussed the overall handling the cybercrime. As with the Interpol on one hand, Europol and other agencies, we need the OECD also to take a stronger part in galvanizing or getting together to fight it. We discussed the defined responsibilities of private sectors and private actors compared to the governments, interoperable standards in IoT and other technologies mentioned by some of us. Information sharing, I think that is something that we can point as a single point of efforts that we can and should work under and with hand-to-hand with the OECD to get a multilateral platform of information sharing regarding cybercrime, regarding any multilateral aspects of cybersecurity. And there's a lot in this team play that we can share and we need to share. We can use this platform also for regulation and certification of solutions, of products and services, how to build more trust with vendors, with private sector, and among us with the solutions. We have a few opportunities to discuss furthermore these issues. The first speaker from the Czech Republic mentioned the 5G conference coming in November or December. We live in Prague. We have the expo even before that in Dubai. And hopefully we'll have more in-person meetings and conferences that we can meet together in even larger groups to furthermore, but we won't wait until then, and we take a responsibility to try to lead and to move forward this international platform. And if to conclude, before the thanks, maybe let's see our governments as sharing the same values and developing policies to promote cyber resilience. It is our responsibility to implement these policies. And we have taken a variety of measures, such as identifying critical activities, raising awareness, developing skills, promoting innovation, stimulating information sharing among stakeholders, and providing advanced technical assistance. These form an excellent baseline, but more is needed. In a global and interconnected economy or economies, our ability to become more secure also depends directly on our ability to work together across the globe, and we have all the representatives all around the globe here. By leveraging the convening power of the OECD, we will strengthen the partnership for collaboration and share our progress at the next meeting of the OECD Global Forum on Digital Security for Prosperity, hosted by Japan in next year in 2022. And as I said, I believe until then we have enough time, but in cyber time it's speed of light. We need to move faster and stronger to get more tangible and more valid and implementable measures. And I think we're moving forward, but we need to pace up little more. And in this spirit, I want to thank you, first of all, the moderators and speakers along these 2 great days of this conference. All the participants, we have a couple of hundreds this session and the other sessions as well, from about 60 countries all around the globe. And I want to thank the OECD Secretariat, the organizing team in Paris, Matthew Nadding, Lauren Bernat, of course, and all the rest of the great team that made it happen. I want to also thank Michal Kremer and the ANSSI team here sitting with me in Tel Aviv, and our appreciation to the Secretary General of the OECD for making it happen. So in this spirit, thank you very much. Good morning, good evening, good night for all of you, and stay safe and secure. Until next time.